I believe, let me see if we are.
We're live.
We are live. Oh, stand by. Let me refresh one more time, and I believe we are just about live, if we aren't now. All right. Now I'm seeing standby.
I know, because there's a lag. It's
Oh,
like
there's
a
a lag.
minute or so lag, so you won't see it yet.
Okay, so you can see how professional we are.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
if we can do this, anybody can. Right?
Exactly. All right. So welcome everybody, and you know this is our weekly We Believe Team Hangout, and I want to welcome you for coming and spending time with us because we know that you certainly have better things to be doing with your time. But what we like to do is really keep everybody up to date. We like to be
I know, because there's a lag. It's like a minute or so lag. So that's you or me?
Okay, yeah, that's me. So we're all screwed up technology-wise, but now I think we've got it back on track. I turned the volume off, and we're back on track. And I'm joined tonight with Debbie McKinney and
Debbie with a Y.
Florida. Welcome, Debbie.
Hello there. Thank you. Yeah, Debbie with a Y. There you go.
Okay, and tonight we're actually, we talked about something that we can cover, and for those of you who were on the call on Monday nights, and for those of you who have been here for a while, really what I'm seeing here is this is just some great timing because, with what's going on in Empower, they're really, this is unlike any other opportunity I've ever been with because, you've got leadership that actually is human. They make mistakes, they admit they make mistakes, they talk about it, they do things to correct them, and, they truly, I get this feeling that they truly do have our best interests in mind, and they're really there to support us and to see us become successful. And I've been in other businesses. One in particular was owned by some big corporation, and it was like whatever they could do to make what we were doing. They had no conscience about it. They would take away our commissions, they would change our pay structure, they would do things that really more served them than would serve us. And what you've got here with Empower Network is Dave Wood, who is now the sole founding member of Empower, who really had the vision in the first place of what Empower was going to be. He really stood back and he said, there's been just something off really since October in a way that he took the time to really look at what he could do to make what we're doing better and easier. And I got to say, I really felt it was things that actually Debbie and I had talked about, and some of you and some of the leaders here have talked about, and what we really couldn't put our head around and really express. He did such a great job of really addressing issues that may have been here that were just something that would take a little bit of fine-tuning to correct, but really taking the time to address, righting the ship and really putting us in a great place to go forward. I got to tell you, I'm really excited about what I heard. I'm really excited about the way that he handled himself, the way that he's heading this company, and the way that they're really taking us in a direction to give us the best opportunity to really have what we came here for. So, Debbie, any thoughts that you've got on that?
I do, and it's really interesting, and I've experienced some of those not so great owners of companies that change things around and whatnot, and they do it behind closed doors, and you find out about it after the fact. But what really impressed me was that Dave Wood comes out, admits that he makes a mistake. It's so transparent, and this is what's going on. Here's what I didn't do. Here's what we did right, and that is just so refreshing to have that. And more and more, like when you first come to this, there's so much and you don't really know, and sometimes you'll hear the swearing, and other times there's like it's like a professional marketing organization, but that's just it. It's like real people are here, and it's just really, really refreshing that that you can just bring things out in the open, talk about them, even like when they brought Vic on the call, where they just work things out in the open. And, you just don't see that. And I had a conversation today, and it wasn't necessarily about Empower, but it was with some local business people and, how they can have a better presence online for their own business, not as an affiliate, but to improve their presence online and their influence. And as soon as I said, you can't hide behind the internet anymore, they got it. They're like, oh, you're so right. And so we really had this great conversation about just being real and, and not trying to fool people. And it still amazes me that people do that. But, but as Dave Wood goes on, you see that he really does have a heart. He knows he can make a ton of money. He doesn't have to involve any of us. And there's lots of businesses where you can go out and make money, and it's not duplicatable, and it's not a place where even completely new people or people who have never had success before, even if they're not new, can come here and get a result. And just that Dave would do that he really does care about his team, which is us in Empower Network. And I've just never really seen anything like that. And so very, very impressive. That's what I've got.
I see that somebody's having a little bit of technical problems.
Oh.
It says she can't hear anything.
Uh-oh. You know what? I'm going to unmute my iPad and see.
Okay, that's fine.
I can hear on my iPad when I unmute.
Okay.
And it might...
Video. Volume. Below. Sorry.
So,
if you want to talk for a minute or so, below.
Okay. And Lakeisha, we see that you can't hear anything. I unmuted my iPad, which I have... whoops, let me go here. Which I have right here, and I was able to hear the sound, and so I think Scott's going to try to help you with the sound of that. And one of the other things about, with Dave Wood talking about, not really portraying the vision of Empower. Well, I mean, not really Empower, but of the blog. And he really has us at heart, and he has this big vision. But one of the things he said was he didn't communicate that vision to us and what that blog could do and what he sees it as. And, it really takes a big man to do that. And this kind of fits into with what's going on, and they're going back to really what made them successful, and we can all kind of take a lesson from that. That you figure something out, and you're doing it well, you get a result, and over time, and you don't even realize it. It could be a short period of time or a long period of time. You make one little change and another, and then all of a sudden you're off course of where you were when you were successful. And sometimes it just really takes, saying, okay, where are we now? What happened, and what can we do about it? So where were we when we had the success? What were we doing? And really taking a look at that and then getting back to that. Now, when you add the basics of Empower Network and what we've got with the iPass 2 system, which, excuse me, is really a front-end marketing system for Empower Network. And when you first come into Empower Network, and Scott will go into this a little bit more detail about the 8 core steps. And so even for somebody new, the 8 core steps, though very detailed and very good information, can seem kind of overwhelming if you've never seen this before, never done this, never had success like this before. So what the iPass 2 is all about is so that somebody who hasn't had, well, actually, even if you've had success or you've been trying this a long time, can take little steps and learn as you go and get a result. And their goal is to get a result within 7 days. So imagine you're new and you're just getting started and you get a result, you make some kind of money, not saying you're going to get rich or whatnot, and we have the disclosures, and I think they're below, but powernetwork.com/, what is it?
Income.php.
Income.php, thank you. And so if we're talking about any kind of income here, but what iPass really does is so that the new person can get a result. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. And so what happens when you get a result? You feel good. You feel more confident. And then you build on that. And so it helps build little successes in a row so that when you get to Empower Network, you know what it is, you know what to do, and you've had, that little bit of training that, I'm told is going to be like the Harvard of internet, online marketing. So that's what I've got about iPass 2 and Dave Wood there.
Well, thank you for that, Debbie. And I think I'm finally past the technology and trying to, get everybody to be able to hear. And, what really is going on here, and it's really back to the basics and simplifying. And that's, really what I think that we all need to do, because it's just so easy. And I can tell you I am as guilty as anyone out there of trying to overanalyze, overcomplicate, create things that keep me from getting results. And, for those of you who know my story, certainly my first 3 months, I spent way too much time analyzing and figuring out and, having to know everything. And, the one thing that I can consistently share with you is don't do what I did. Do what what I've learned is the way to do this. And, certainly when you first get started, we all know that there's, this is something that, you're learning a totally new skill set. You're learning something that, really will give you the ability to be able to be successful in anything, because, the core of what's going on, like Debbie was talking about earlier, is, the internet is the new frontier. It's the place where, money is going to be made, and people have an opportunity, if they can, find a way to get the word out, to be successful. And it doesn't matter if you're doing Empower. What you're really learning here is something that will serve you in anything you do. And if you just allow that information to absorb, or if you take the time to learn what it is that that you're taught here, then sky's the limit. And certainly with the business model that we've got with Empower, which we all know, if you look at it, if you were to go out and try and create a product, and then, especially something that was hosted on the internet, and then go through all the hosting, and go through all the SEO, and go through the design, and go through all those steps, and spend thousands and thousands of dollars, which is what Dave Wood has done, there's no way that you'd give it away. But for some reason, this, as crazy as it sounds, and he certainly was told that it was one of the craziest things ever, he went out and just said, what, we're going to give this away and give the people that are in our organization the ability to go out and make 100% of what this product, basically we're going to give them this product so that they can make 100% of the money. And the company stood back and said, as a matter of fact, initially, for those of you who don't know, they didn't even have the $19.95 affiliate fee, and I don't know how they thought they were going to make money other than, being at the top affiliates in the company. But, they really, were in a position where they were going to start bleeding the company because they were taking their personal money and supporting the company. Well, anyways, we're the ones that benefit from this, and, we continue to benefit because of, the way that Dave Wood has really focused on us being successful. And unlike any other company out there, where it's not about how much money he makes, it's really his vision of making that 100 millionaires a year, of which I intend to be one of them. I can project this into the end of 2015, by December 31st. We all have an opportunity to really follow in the footsteps of the people that have created the results, and just use the formula that's already in place and use those tools that we've been given. So, going into the tools, couple things. number one, Dave Wood is putting together a brand new onboarding series, getting started series of videos. And that's one thing that I think that we've really been lacking, and something that I think is really going to help all of us, because, you know, when people get started, we keep fiddling with the letters, we keep fiddling with, you know, things that we can use to help people get started. But, you know, to be honest with you, it's a lot of people have gotten overwhelmed, and, you know, it's not for lack of resources, but it's for, you know, just too many resources. And if we can simplify that, what that really creates is giving people the ability to be much more clear on what it is that they need to do, having a much easier path to go down. Okay, so what does that mean? Because what I've found is that when people get confused and when people don't know what to do, they don't do anything because they don't want to do something wrong. So rather than, you know, take the risk on messing up something, which I can tell you, you really can't mess this up, you know, they just freeze. And, you know, one thing that we have attempted to do here, especially with the We Believe team, to supplement all the other resources that we have, is we've tried to do what we can to support each person as they come in and really walk them into the process, you know, starting with, you know, the getting started conference call or webinar, or however we end up doing it. I've been doing webinars lately, and that really has been working well. But, you know, when we do that, what I'm finding is it instills in someone who's getting started a confidence of knowing that there's someone there to help them. And, you know, that goes back, of course, to, you know, our three major questions that anybody starting a business is going to ask, and that's, you know, is it real? And, you know, obviously it is real, because, you know, we're now at 12 millionaires. There's another couple in the wings that, you know, within the next 3-4 months or so, we'll be, you know, hitting that mark. You know, can I do it? Well, you know, a lot of people, they really don't believe that they can do some kind of a business working from home, because there's so many stories out there of failure, of people just not having the ability to go out and get a result. And, you know, the third thing, and I'm taking these out of order, but, you know, will you help me? And, you know, one of the things that I really feel proud about with this team is that we are all here to support each other. You know, we've got our Facebook group. We've got, you know, certainly anybody here is available to help, and, you know, whatever we can do to support each other. I think that that's really important. You know, that's one of the reasons that I, you know, always encourage everyone to, you know, watch our Facebook group, and when new people get started, you know, take the time to welcome them, you know, just as you would want us to help you welcome the people that you bring in. And, you know, I like that culture. I like the fact that, you know, we're all locking arms and really working together and going forward. So, you know, Dave Wood is going to help us simplify that system and maybe, you know, cut through some of the overwhelm, because, you know, he also recognized that, you know, what you don't need necessarily are more videos to watch. You need, you know, a clearer path to be able to get to your results as quickly as possible. And then, of course, you know I'm going back and forth in addressing what Debbie talked about, is we don't even know, but I'm very optimistic about what's going to happen with this new iPass system. I think that's going to be something that's really going to, you know, give us great resources to be able to, you know, really allow the system to introduce to people, you know, how important it is to position themselves, and, you know, what the real value is in the products. Because, you know, what I've found in the past is, you know, until people understand what they've got their hands on, they don't realize the importance of the products. They don't realize that the training inside the products is going to ramp up their ability to, you know, create results quicker. So, you know, all of these things, you know, certainly I can't say that the system is broken, but, you know, as Dave Wood said, there was just something a little bit off. And I know this goes back to the example that I keep using over and over again, but I'll use it, a rocket going to the moon this time instead. You know, 99% of the time, it's off course. But with those little, small, constant course corrections along the way, it ends up hitting the target. You know, no matter what the distance, you can get to your end result as long as you know, recognize that, you know, you're not going to do things perfectly, and it's okay to make course corrections and things that will help you get closer to your target. So, you know, action and, you know, just not having to know everything is really the secret to success here, and then just following in, the trainings and the things that we have. So, one thing I did want to address tonight is, talking about the 8 core commitments. And from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, Debbie, I think that Dave Wood talked about redoing the 8 core commitment videos as well. And, I know there's going to be something that's going to be congruent in all of this. So now the onboarding, getting started videos will be in place. The 8 core commitments will be in place. And, there will be a total theme of, walking you through the system so that you're not, going in different directions as you're getting started. And I think the ultimate goal here is to simplify things and make it easier for people to be able to get themselves out of the starting gates, because what we find, most people, when they get overwhelmed, they do nothing, and when they do nothing, they're stopping their progress. And sometimes they can actually quit, sometimes they work their way through it, but until they believe that this is going to be something that can work, it's easy to see where they don't quite understand the process. So going back to the 8 core commitments, and this is something that I know that I have gone back and rewatched. I have not for a while, but I'm anxiously waiting for the new versions to come out, because I do want to go back through them, and they really do help recharge what it takes to be successful. But the very first one, your first core commitment, is getting your affiliate account. And of course, now with the Prosperity Team site, you really can't even get into the training. So it's pretty easy to understand why you need the affiliate account. And of course, you can't make money unless you have the ability to collect credit cards, and all of those are intertwined. So getting the affiliate account it's a no-brainer. It just it's your business. It's part of what you need to do to be able to be positioned to make money, and that's what we're here for. Because for the most part, I don't know of that many people that are just getting this just to use the blog for marketing. It's something that can be done, but let's face it, we want people to really have the ability to change their lives and really get results here. The next thing is blogging daily. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not the biggest blogger in the world, but I do know that on occasions I will throw a video out onto my blog, put it onto YouTube, and then maybe put that same video directly onto Facebook. And it doesn't have to be the 4-hour masterpiece, which is really one of the reasons that I've backed away from blogging on a regular basis. But you can do something very simple with your blog and get a result. And actually, Mike Hobbs has done some pretty good training on that. Just showing simple ways to be able to leverage the use of your blog. Get a presence out there on the internet, because you really never know who's going to find you. But one of the things that you really should think about with your blog is come up with a theme that's going to be something that will help give you a presence on the internet. What is it that you really want in your messaging, and who's your target market, and how can you help them? If you do it in that way, I think you can actually get a result from your blog without having it become a burden, because I don't want to see anybody spend 4 hours like I've done in the past writing a blog post, because the real bottom line is the blog is not a quick income producing activity. And what I really want to see people focus on is getting a result as quickly as possible. I think that that's really important, and that's really something that helps people gain belief in the business. The other thing, though, that I do absolutely recommend is marketing daily. And it doesn't have to be anything more than just doing something to get some flow of leads. And there's so many different ways of marketing. There isn't one that's more right than the other, and you just have to find what you resonate with, what you like to do, and just get good at that. Once you get some results, you can then start in a different direction. But too often people get started with marketing and they get overwhelmed and they go in too many different directions. So once again, the message is, let's keep this simple. Find what it is that you like. I regularly do paid marketing. We've shared. We have a couple of different sources. We have a special team rate with PowerClicks, and I have gotten results there. And I know Ron is here as well, and Ron has gotten results. Putting himself in the top 200 in the contest that we had back in January. So there is something there that works, and it is something that we can use. And then of course we've got co-op domination. We've got, there's other co-ops and things that we can do, and certainly if anybody wants that information, I'm happy to share that. The other thing that we do, and as I had said, the new member coaching. Now let me tell you what I've been doing that's really been working out pretty well, and I think it really helps the whole process. What I've been doing for my new member coaching is I'll set up a Google Hangout one-on-one. I'll share their computer screen, and they'll give me the ability to poke around. And this way, so often when you're trying to get a new member started and you're helping them with their AWeber or hooking their autoresponder to the company site or to the prosperity team site, you're not quite sure where they're at and where they're looking. So it's pretty simple. And maybe what we'll do, actually we could do this maybe next week, is set up to show you how to do that, how to set up a Google Hangout and actually be able to share screens with someone. And that really gives us the ability to connect with them, let them feel good about being on a team that's going to take the time to really put our arm around them and help them get started. So and then there's also inside the 8 core steps, Dave Wood talks about some really good techniques to connect with people, connect with what their goals are, and really focus in on how having the products will benefit them getting to their goals as quickly as possible. And that's certainly something that's very, very important. The 5th core commitment is the Empower Hour. And it's not an hour. I can tell you that. There's no question that this never, usually ends up to be an hour. But they surprised us last Monday night. Tracy Walker did her, her training and her coaching, and it was all good stuff. And then Dave Wood got on, and that's where he really had his, he really opened up and let us know what was going on, what things were, being worked on, what was going on behind the scenes, what the future vision of the company is. Not that there were any major problems, but, he really addressed and brought out in total transparency, how we can do better. And that's, I'm really excited about that. And, the other thing that's come out of this, if you guys haven't heard, is that the Empower Hour is now going to be something that you'll be able to send prospects to, because I got to be honest with you, I have not been sending people to the Empower Hour, even though it's one of the core commitments. I was there myself, but, it just seems like on some subtle levels, there were just things that were off. It just wasn't, something that you felt, you didn't know what you were going to get week after week. Well, now they're going back to the basics. It's going to be training. It's going to be, inspiring stories. It's going to be things that people have learned that have, really helped put them in a place where they've been able to get results. And, I think this is really refreshing because, once again, it's back to basics. And, the nice thing is that the leadership here really does have our back. They're really there to, make sure that we have the resources to get the results. So, this is going to be something that has always been something that I've used in the past. I've gotten results from it. I've had people, that have come out of an Empower Hour and gotten signed up and started with me. So, it was something that I felt we were kind of missing as a resource. So, once again, good things are coming and good things are coming our way. And then, of course, there's daily audio, the inner circles, or books on tape, or, whatever you need. We joke about this being a brainwashing, but it's not a brainwashing in a way that's going to, make you into a zombie or do something. It's a brainwashing to really take away those things that hold so many people back, because, a lot of times what happens is we've got those little voices in our head that just won't allow us to believe that something can, really be real, or that we have value, or that we have something to offer, or that we're, really deserving of being successful. And all those things can keep you back when you really do deserve to have the results. And, in what I've seen for myself, there's, the more I pay attention to these things, the more I listen to books, the more I, listen in on the inner circle audios, I really know that it just helps me, be much more focused. And it's kind of funny, the more time I spend doing that, it seems like my results definitely do accelerate when I'm doing that. So, once again, using our 8 core commitments, there's method to the madness here. In other words, These guys came up with a formula, and it's been very, very successful. I mean, it's very rare that you see a company that's created, as many success stories as this company has, and that's really there for the taking. The other thing is, and I know I kind of, am blending the lines here, but it's reading daily. And once again, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm more of a books on tape kind of guy. And, now that the weather is finally, broke up here in Chicago, I'm going to go out for bike rides and, spend time listening to my books on tape. And you know what? I get a lot out of it. It's something where, I can actually kind of disconnect and just really focus on, having, some great information. And there's so many books on tape. For those of you, if you're going to play it back on your iPhone, or if you've got the ability to use it, there's a book on tape company called Audible. And here's the thing you can do. You can actually get more time. You can speed up your book. So, I've heard double speed. I've not done that, but I've done time and a half. And, amazingly enough, you actually absorb just as much. You have to concentrate a little bit more because, the words are flying by faster. But you can really speed up the time that you can go through a book if you're listening to it on tape. And it's called Audible, and they've got like a monthly subscription, and you can have your books, and it's really it's a really great tool to use because it's something that you can listen to the book. It remembers where you left off if you click off the app, and you can put it. In my case, I've got it right on my iPhone, and I take it with me bike riding, or I take it with me walking, or whenever I want to be listening to a book, and it's really something that I definitely recommend. And I'm sure there's ways to do download books out of iTunes and what have you, but Audible I definitely recommend, and it's a great value. And then the last, but actually probably the most important one, if you're really serious about this business, you're going to be at an event. You're going to be in the presence of other people and just really absorb the energy. And by being at the events that they're, from what I'm hearing now, we're not going to have an event now until the fourth quarter. They're going to finish up the regionals. I don't think they're going to have one during the summer. And, I've heard that the next event will be sometime approximately in October. And I certainly have no knowledge any more than you guys do. But, from what I've heard, that's what it sounds like it's going to be. So, being in those events, what it really does is it just recharges your belief. And, for those of you who know my story, and I'm sure most of you do, what happened to me is I really kind of, started the business. I was thinking about it too much. I just didn't have that inner belief and that inner shift. And then when I went to an event, actually a year ago in March, I came out, I went in making about $5,000, and from March until today, I've made now over $87,000. So just by going to an event, I had a shift. I had an ability to really feel the energy. And there's a theory for those of you who are on the Think and Grow Rich calls. They're actually going through Napoleon Hill's The Laws of Success right now, and I definitely recommend that you listen in on those calls or listen to the recordings. But they covered very extensively the mastermind and the fact that when people get together and you get one person and then you bring another person in, it exponentially increases the mental energy and the results, and there's just a feeding off each other that you get. Now imagine if you take not only two people, but you put yourself in a room with hundreds or thousands of people. There's just something special that comes out of that. And not only being in the room with people, it's walking down the hall or sitting at lunch or going in the bar and talking to people and just learning things. And it's amazing that the community itself is really so united in one purpose, and that is to create results and give everybody the ability to really have the life that they want, to have to be able to live making choices and not having choices made for them. There's nothing worse than being in a job when you really want to be home. I mean, there's that handful of people out there that that are working a job or working for themselves that are mostly enjoying it, I can tell you for myself, I had my own business, and I gave up a lot in my life to have had that business. I ended up getting divorced. I was working 60, 70 hours a week regularly. I was always on call. I was stressed. It was, everything that was done in the company was on my shoulders. And, even though I had, I thought I was, master of my own destiny, I really realized that I was, being controlled by the business, and, I really never could totally just shut down and be away from it. I was always on duty, and that's completely different than what we have here. So, the real bottom line is these 8 core commitments are there for a reason. And I'm going to tell you, there's some of them that I'm stronger on and others that I'm not. And I do recommend, though, that you really take the time to get consistent in what you're doing here. And I think that's really the real bottom line message is, there are things in these 8 core steps that are really, truly there to create results, and they were done for a reason. And, there's nothing here to try and take you away from your business. It's trying to make you a better person, making you more successful more quickly, and really having the ability to get to whatever goal you have in mind. So, those 8 core commitments are very important. So that's what I've got, Debbie, and I know that you had some information that we talked about earlier that you wanted to share as well.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. And it's funny because you talked about being an entrepreneur and thinking you're in control of your destiny, and I also was an entrepreneur, and one of my biggest things was that I wanted to be home and be like the primary influencer of my kids, but yet still run a business. And this is really going to date me, but once they came out with fax machines, then I realized I could work at home. And it took a while, but I got it figured out. And so I actually ran a 7-figure business in my home and was there for the kids. And there were times when they were younger that I had help come in and stuff like that. But they're grown today. They're all out of the house, and it's one of my most precious moments, because I realized if I didn't raise my kids right, nothing else would matter. And so I'm really passionate about helping, not just moms, but sometimes it's the dads too, that want to spend more time with their kids, who don't want to be chained to a job. And so that's one of my passions, is really to bring families together. And there's things that get in our way. And when Scott and I were talking about this hangout and what are we going to do this evening, and I usually just go to I have a huge library of books. It looks like John Lavinia's office there, and I picked one. And today I just went and I said, what is it that I think we need? And I picked Play to Win by Larry Wilson. So there's a hint in itself if you're looking for books to read or on Audible. And I heard Larry Wilson speak more than once, and it's choosing growth over fear. And you might say, well, what is all that about? And so when you really ask yourself, are you playing to win, or are you just playing not to lose? You might say, well, what do you mean by that? And so if you're playing not to lose, you're avoiding fear. And just so I'm clear, I'm not talking about real fear, or something really bad happens, and it's not that type of fear. The kind of fear that I'm talking about that keeps you from playing not to lose is like embarrassment, it's rejection. It's like you feel like this big heavy bad thing, or just they'll laugh at me if I really step out and grow with this. And so it's in our imagination, and again, it's not the real fear, it's not the real stuff that goes on. And really, it's kind of a game, and it's all about survival. And most of us are, even if you grew up with parents who really kind of it's just all over, whether your parents were like this or not. But like, you'll be able to finish the sentence, money doesn't grow on trees, and good guys don't always, they don't always, they finish last, or just things like that, or play it safe. I'm trying to think of some good examples, like play it safe, or you couldn't go out and do that, and it's whether you're saying it in your head or somebody else is saying it to you or has said it to you.
Money is the root of all evils.
What's that?
Money is the root of all evil.
Money is the root of all evil. Yeah, that's another good one. That's a great example too. And so, on TV, on billboards, in magazines, in our families, and at work, we hear these things, and have security in your job. Gosh, going out and being an entrepreneur is tough, and well, it is. But to me, and that's just mine, is it's tougher not to be an entrepreneur. And so you choose not to take risks, and because you're afraid of what might happen. And so when you're playing to win, and really think about this, because when I first heard this with Larry Wilson, I heard what he was saying, but I really, I took it to heart and really thought about situations where, was I really playing to win, or was I playing not to lose? And and so it's something that you consciously choose, because we automatically tend to avoid things that scare us, or gosh, they might say no, and what if I offer this, and or oh my gosh, if I do this online business, I'm just going to be so embarrassed. I mean, who does that? And who has success? And oh, that Empower Network, because maybe they heard about it in the very beginning. And I get that too, where when the company was first starting and they had issues. And first of all, every company has issues. Every single company has issues. And so, really, it's your choice. Are you going to kind of engage in life, and are you going to grow, in this kind of game of life? And if you just kind of take the brakes off and say, okay, for right now, just for this, let's just say it's just this one thing, I'm going to take the brakes off, and I'm not going to think about what could happen, and oh, well, my goodness, and really, what is the worst that can really happen? Are you going to get bit? Are you going to jump, be thrown off a cliff? Are you going to be thrown out of a car? Are you going to be laughed at? And maybe some of those things are real. But most of the time, we blow them up in our imagination. We blow them up in our heads. And if we just kind of say for a minute, okay, I'm just going to suspend that. I'm not going to think about that right now. You would be shocked at how far you can go. And, there was a time in my life when my husband and I, we had been separated for a period of time, and and this is kind of a personal situation. It's not a business example, but I think it kind of illustrates that. And things are kind of rocky at this point, and we're still together and whatnot. But it was just this. It was this period of time, and I can remember saying, "Oh my gosh, he might leave me," and I was all upset and this and that. And, I had to say, he was gone. I mean, he was gone. And, I said, you can't lose something you don't have. And that was kind of a revelation. And all of a sudden, instead of playing not to win, playing not to lose, I was playing to win. So anytime that fear came up, I said, you can't lose something you don't have. And I was able to just let go of that whole situation. And so, when we play not to lose, we have this emotional thing at stake, and it's it's layer upon layer upon layer. So it's not going to happen overnight, but where we choose to take a risk will grow in ways that we never expected. And using that same situation where where my husband and I were separated, and I said, you can't lose something you don't have, I began to act differently. and I began to, it didn't matter as much, although, we had a lot going on, finances, and I mean, all the stuff that goes with it. And and the greatest part about this was my kids saw me face things. I didn't run away, although there were times I was tempted. I learned that I had more strength inside of me than I ever had. And so, you just never know how you're going to grow. So during that phase, I realized how strong I was. And now I can take that same thing and use it in an online business. I struggled for 6 years trying to figure out how to make money online. There was just so many moving pieces and this and that, and I just never did figure it out. And I consider myself pretty smart, but when it came to that, I was really struggling until I came to Empower, where they have the systems and the processes and the right commissions and, like the whole package thing. And so now I can say, okay, what I went through in the past, I kind of faced my fears, and not always. There were times when I was crawled up in a ball and, and I was just a total wreck, but I survived it. And so I can take that and say, okay, now I can survive this internet stuff. And if I run into a challenge, which I have, putting together Aweber and the autoresponder, or some other technical thing, because I like to understand the big picture, but just the little things can drive me crazy. So it's a conscious choice of just being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so I knew that in my example, doing like putting together some of the technical pieces is not comfortable for me. I don't like doing it, but I will either find somebody to help me, find somebody to do it, or I will figure it out because I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. So think about that in your own situation too, is, take a risk, even though you don't know what the outcome is. And so what is it right now? What is kind of like this next thing that's keeping you from success? So what's working? What isn't? And what can you do? And so when you take that one little step, your confidence builds, and now you're you've got like one more step on the confidence ladder. So now when you take that next little step and you do it, no matter what the outcome is, just that you've done it, then you're on the next level. And so you keep taking step after step, kind of up a confidence ladder. And so are you really pushing your limits? Do you really know what your limits are? And so, are you excited about success? And it may be because you want to leave your job. Maybe you do want to be home with your kids, or you want to travel, or have these things. So are you excited about that? And, let me get this over here. And so just know, too, that when you're excited, and actually, Earl Nightingale defined success. Whoops, my screen went blank there. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And I'll say that again. Success is progressive, which means it's ongoing. You're never quite there. Realization, which means you're doing little things. You're taking risks. You're getting a result, and it doesn't matter if it's good or bad or right or wrong, and then you're doing it again because you've learned these things, and you're doing this for a worthy ideal. It's your why, it's your passion, it's why you do these things, and that's the worthy ideal. So know that you can't fail, you can only learn and grow. And when you look at it that way, if you're not failing, you're only learning, and when you learn, you're growing. And so, there's a shift in me, and there's a shift that I think a lot of people make that are successful. And, let's just say finances are tight. And there were times in my life where my finances were tight, and I went into network marketing, and literally I was really kind of dependent on that next sale. And if somebody said no, it hurt me, and I took it personally, and I really needed that money. And so, you know and part of a shift was to say, okay, I'm not going to let any one person, any one sale determine my self-worth, and take off on a path and just say, I'm headed in this direction, I'm learning, I'm growing, and it doesn't matter. Not one sale is going to change who I am. And one of the things that helped me tremendously, in actually, I years ago I sold insurance and financial products and things like that. So if I did have a job, it was always commission. But somebody said to me, okay, if you were a host at a party and you had a little pot of coffee, and I came over to you and said, would you like coffee? Oh yes, thank you. Okay, well, I would pour it. I come to the next person, I said, would you like coffee? No thanks. I wouldn't be offended. I wouldn't take it personally. I would just say, okay, and move on. And so and that's even taking a risk to be able to get to that point, that we can say, when people say no, or they don't buy, or they don't subscribe, or whatever, that it's not us internally, that we're just learning and growing and not making mistakes. And so it all has to do with our perception. And so I hope all of you will kind of think about playing to win as opposed to, playing not to lose. And ask yourself, when you come to that situation, what's the worst that can happen? Realize that you're doing, and just saying, I'm playing a game. I'm here to learn and grow, and I'm just going to do it. It doesn't matter the outcome. So that's what I've got, Scott.
Well, you know what, Debbie, that is just really so right on target. And we could do an entire call on this, because there's so much real core, of what helps to get results. But I would say that the two big points that I think I really wanted to just take a minute here to talk about, because I know we are definitely going to end this before the top of the hour, because for those of you with the ITF, the Internet Traffic Formula, there will be a webinar with Vic tonight, so we're all back on track as far as that's concerned as well. And for those of you that are new, all I can say is your timing is great, just because so many things are really in place to really just explode from where we're at. Not that things have been bad, but they certainly always can be better, and that's really what's happening right now. Is we're just on the it's that explosion of just having all the right pieces kind of coming together in that perfect storm. But the thing that really came up for me is operating in a place where you're really focusing on your goals, because ultimately that's what's going to carry you through the ups and the downs, and especially the downs, because you're going to run into challenges. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. Is you're starting a business, you're an entrepreneur, you're going to run into things that just in your wildest imagination you couldn't see happening. But you know what? It's okay, because you're going to gain from that. You're going to certainly become a stronger person. You're going to really once you've gotten through whatever the challenge is, like Debbie was talking about the technology or whatever, and listen, there have been times I felt like throwing my computer right out the window. But you know what? Just I could take the time to stand back and say, you know what? It's just I'm forcing it. Maybe I got to take a break and come at it with a fresh outlook. And that really works sometimes. I got to tell you, a lot of times I'll grind it out more than I should. And I don't know that that's necessarily the best way to do it, but we all have to find whatever it is. But find the way to focus on your goals, because we're all here for a reason. We're all here to accomplish something, and really end up in a place where we've got what we want and what we deserve. And if you're operating looking at the longer term view and not focusing on some of the immediate issues, because they're going to be there, like I said, it's not something that's ever going to go away, especially being an entrepreneur. If you're not focusing on that, and you're focusing on your goals and what it is that you're looking to accomplish, and the people that you're going to be helping, and the changes in the lives of the people that you're going to be touching with this, and all the things that the much bigger mission of why you're doing what you're doing, these other things really become relatively insignificant, and you aren't really allowing them to take over and get you distracted. And the other thing that you brought out that I once again, we can spend a whole call on this, and that's not being attached to your results. Like that was a great example of a cup of coffee. In the reality, so many times if somebody's, when you're in this business, if somebody doesn't see what you see, it should be as insignificant as somebody not asking, telling you they just don't feel like coffee right now. It has nothing to do with you. It's not anything that you're doing. It's just they're in a place where they don't want the coffee. Well, that happens in our business. And as much as we believe in what we're doing, and as much as we feel that we can go out and change people's lives, it isn't something that we should be attached to. We're more focused on, first off, the people that want to be doing what we're doing, and and take the time to really put your arm around them and focus on them. And those people you should be attached to. But for the people that don't see this, or for whatever reason just aren't in the right place, let them go. I got to tell you, in my case, and I know I'm definitely watching our time, and we're going to tie this up real quickly. I looked at Empower 6 months before I got in, and I didn't do it. I just wasn't ready. It wasn't my time to be ready to be open to being an Empower. So focus on why you're here. Really embrace what it is that you want to accomplish. Think about the people that you're going to be benefiting, and all of the other things will work themselves out, because you're as I've said so many times, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. And if you have the longer term vision of where you're going, you'll get there, and we'll do it with you, because I'm here for the long term. I know Debbie's here for the long term. So many of you have been here, for the long term, and we just want to really do this together, because, I really, I mean, there is no bigger thrill I get than seeing somebody, on my team have their first success, or somebody have a sale that, maybe hasn't had a sale for a little bit of time. That to me is the best part of this whole business. It shifts from me to, what I can do to help everybody else, and, that's really what this whole business is about. So, I want to thank you all for spending time here. I know we really have to tie this up. Debbie, any last thoughts?
Yes, choose growth over fear, and don't play not to lose. Remember, play to win. And would love to hear your stories in the Facebook group. Thanks a lot, everybody.
And you know what? Good night, everybody. Thank you for spending time with us. We will be here next week, and I think we've actually opened up some topics here and some things that we can talk about. And if any of you have anything out there that you want us to cover for us, just let us know in the Facebook group. We're there. I'm in there constantly. And, make it a great night. Thank you for spending time with us. And we're out right on time.